Good evening and welcome to the December meeting of the Committee of Adjustments. Before I begin, I will call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. May I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Ms. Lalonde, seconded by Ms. Kohler. All in favor? And that is carried. We'll begin today. I will turn the mic over to Mr. Roth to read the land acknowledgement. Yes.
We have gathered at Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee and the Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with the One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between the Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth, and we should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Inuit, and the Métis people, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our committee this evening. To my right is Mr. Miller, Ms. Kohler, Mr. Roth, and Ms. Lalonde. With us this evening is Cameron Miller, our planner for the township. And my name is Tyler Bowman, chair of this committee. We are an independent body appointed by Wilmot Township Council. We have the power to make minor changes to existing zoning regulations and to approve some changes to existing non-conforming uses, as well as to give consent. Each applicant will be notified in writing of the decision within 10 days. With the decision will be instructions on how it can be appealed. Any decision made by this committee can be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, who will then hold a meeting and make a final decision. Only the applicant and certain prescribed public agencies can appeal the committee's decision. If the decision on a minor variance is not appealed, it becomes final and binding after 20 days from the date of this meeting. If a decision on a consent is not appealed, it becomes final and binding after 20 days from the date the decision is mailed. So the format for this evening will be as follows. Mr. Miller will introduce the application. The applicant will then have an opportunity to speak on behalf of the application. Following this, anyone in the audience will have the opportunity to speak for or against the application. The committee members may then question the applicant, and the committee will then make a final decision. To start this meeting, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, our first order of business this evening will be to approve the minutes from our last meeting in November. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Roth. All in favor? And those minutes are carried. That motion's carried. And I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Miller, for the introduction of the applications.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Bowman. The first application this evening is minor variance A24/25 concerning 1170 Bethel Road. And so this application is proposing to increase the maximum allowable area of a building containing an additional dwelling unit from 75% to approximately 107% of the main building. The subject property is a 41-hectare farm developed with an existing single detached dwelling, which also contains an additional dwelling unit in the basement, and there are several outbuildings on the property. The applicant is proposing to convert one of these outbuildings into an additional dwelling unit detached, but because of the size of the existing structure, it does not comply with the regulations for additional dwelling units. Again, the applicant is proposing to convert the entire structure as opposed to a portion. However, even though if a portion were to be converted as opposed to the entire structure, a minor variance would still be required as it applies to the entire structure rather than the area that's simply devoted to additional dwelling unit. The dwelling unit, again, complies with all other regulations in the Township zoning bylaw. Staff did not receive any concerns and are recommending approval. The recommendation varies slightly from what was provided in the report, so I will read the change. The recommendation at which staff are putting forward this evening is to increase the maximum allowable area of an additional dwelling unit detached from 75% of the lot coverage of the main dwelling to approximately 107%. And specifically the change, as it was written in the report is what I just read, but the change specifically is to impose a specific regulation on the existing size of the house. And that's a house with an existing footprint of 250 square meters, and that allows, again, for the additional dwelling unit to be constructed in its current form, but places a cap on any sort of future expansions to that. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Is the applicant in? No. Are there any questions from the committee on this? Just the mic.
Sorry, I just have a question with regards to this new wording. So the 250 meter squared is for the ADU or for the main building?
So I'll just read the wording in its entirety just to avoid any confusion. So the motion is to increase the maximum allowable area of an additional dwelling unit detached from 75% of the lot coverage of a main dwelling with a footprint of approximately 250 square meters to approximately 107%. So to answer your question, the 250 square meters applies to the existing footprint of the house. So the intent of this, as this is commonly applied, is so that if there was a large addition constructed to the house, the 107% therefore doesn't proportionately grow with the additions to the house. So effectively, the additional dwelling unit is capped at its current size, and this is what we commonly apply to recommendations in these instances to prevent something like this happening in the future. Not that the applicant is proposing that, but it's just a safeguard for anything in the future.
Thank you, I understand now.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve application A24/25? Moved by Ms. Lalonde, seconded by Ms. Kohler. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Andrew, could you introduce the next one, please?
Certainly. Just need to enter this into our system. Sorry, apologies. Moving on to the next application, there are two applications that apply to the same property. The property being 1300 Bridge Street in New Dundee, and the applications are consent applications B06/25 as well as B07/25. And effectively, these applications together are seeking to sever two new residential lots and to establish several easements over the severed lands. Specifically, B06 is looking to sever approximately 1,900 square meters from 1300 Bridge Street as a separate residential lot, and B07/25 is proposing to sever a larger residential lot in addition to establishing some easements, one of which is to secure an easement over an existing water service to 1300 Bridge Street, and the other one deals with overland drainage. So the subject property was previously subject to a zone change application, ZCA 04/25, and that was previously approved by council at their November 24th, 2025 meeting. This application rezoned the lands in question to be severed from Zone 8A commercial to Zone 2 residential, as well as a portion of the property which was zoned as Zone 11 open space in recognition of the wetland which is present on the property. This is a culmination of several years that have elapsed and several studies that have been undertaken to support development of these lots. And so since 2019, there's been numerous studies that have been submitted and reviewed in advance of getting to this point, being a zone change application as well as these consent applications this evening, archaeological assessment, hydrological study, environmental impact study, and various other studies that were done to demonstrate, again, that development's feasible on these lots. So the applications before the Committee of Adjustment tonight are simply implementing the previous decisions of Council and would ultimately create these residential lots as well as secure easements. Both the severed parcels will have a frontage on an extension of Catherine Street. Catherine Street does not presently provide turnaround, so it would be an extension of that street. Again, no concerns were received through circulation of the application, and staff are recommending approval of each application.
Thank you, Cameron. We're going to deal with these separately, the recommendations, but regarding any questions of the committee, are there any for Mr. Miller? Seeing none, we are going to start with BO 625. So can I get a motion to approve this application on consent? Moved by Mr. Roth, seconded by Ms. Lalonde. All in favor? That is carried. And now on to BO 725. Can I get a motion to approve that? Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Ms. Lalonde. And can I get all in favor? And that motion is carried as well. I believe that's it for this evening, Cameron? Yep. Okay, so on to the next meeting. Do we have items for next month?
Yes, we would be looking for targeting January 7th meeting.
Okay. Is that something we can all make happen? That sounds good. So I'll get a motion to adjourn for this evening. Moved by Ms. Kohler, seconded by Ms. Lalonde. All in favor? And that is carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you.